Hi there, welcome back to Dave's Desk for another Bible Basics. Today we're looking at the book of Daniel, and if ever there were a book to be described as a book of two halves, it's definitely Daniel. And it's written probably by Daniel or one of his close acquaintances, and Daniel is a captive, one of the captives in Babylon, taken from Jerusalem, and he, along with some of his friends, that's probably fairly highborn within the Jerusalem sort of society, and so they get an equal place of service within Babylonian society. And the book's message, its central key sort of core message that unites the whole book, is God's sovereignty over all of the nations and God's sovereignty over every individual. And the first half of the book, it explains this truth through stories that are classics that get into loads of sort of kids focused Bible storybooks, and the second half is through visions, and that is far more complicated. And so the first half, you may know, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, who refused to conform to the ways of Babylon and to pray to anyone but God in heaven, and so they're thrown into a fiery furnace, except it doesn't affect them at all because God is there with them in the fire. And then you get stories of Daniel, who again refuses to stop praying to God, will only ever pray to God, and so is thrown down into a den of lions, but again God is there with him in the den, and therefore he is saved. And then we see Daniel interpreting dreams, the writing on the wall, and from there we move into this more mystical element of visions. It's not meant to be like reading, it's meant to be read and the imagery reflected upon, and these days you probably need a commentary to guide us through it, because the images and the metaphors used are quite alien to us. But all through that, we see again and again that God is sovereign. So the king of Babylon thinks that he is sovereign, but actually God is raising up Cyrus the Persian, who we talked about before, who is going to come and destroy Babylon. And so the core of the book is that if we trust in God, if we turn to him, if we look to him to be Lord, then we will find rest and peace, and he will be sufficient for us. But if we think that we're sovereign, if we think we are subject to no one else's will, then we'll find ourselves to be fools, because God ultimately is in charge. And I think that's a good reminder for us today, that whatever we're facing, if we turn to God and trust in him, we will find peace. But if we try and walk our own path, we will find only folly. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.